So Donald Trump just went on 60 Minutes and sent a massive warning to the world about the China and the Americas silent Bitcoin battle. Let's get straight into the clip. And of course, me and Opti will talk about it.
Now, China's getting into it very big right now. If you want to go after people, you're going to kill that industry, and it'll be very bad. Tremendous number of jobs. I campaigned positively on crypto, very openly. I campaigned. Biden campaigned against it. When Biden found out that I was getting like 100% of the crypto vote, which was a lot, he switched totally, and he went in favor of crypto. They went totally in favor. They had many people under indictment. They let them all go. They let them all go. You know that. Many people were under indictment. Biden was a corrupt president. Biden went all in on crypto at the very end because he thought he could get some votes. It didn't work. They voted for me. I want to make crypto great for America. That's the only thing. I don't want to have somebody else have crypto and have China be #1 in the world in crypto. Because in crypto, it's a kind of an industry where basically you're going to have #1 and you're not going to have a #2. And right now we're #1 by a long shot. I want to keep it that way. The same way we're #1 with AI, we're #1 with crypto. And I want to keep it that way.
All right, everybody. So you heard it again from President Donald J. Trump talking about it. This is exactly the reasons as to why, he promised us what he promised us at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville. He said, listen, if we don't get on the Bitcoin train, China will. The United States and China, right? China's #2. The United States is #1. And of course, China wants to be competitive with the United States. And again, he's saying it. Look, if we don't get ahead of the curve in terms of, having favorable crypto, to use his words, crypto policy, another country is just going to eat our lunch. And the same thing applies to AI. So again, this is a battle of incentives. This is what Max Kaiser coined the global hash war. We're seeing it play out in real time. Now, what's really interesting about this as well is that Anthony Scaramucci actually said that China is officially going to change their stance on Bitcoin, which I found very interesting that clip dropped very closely to when Trump did that 60 Minutes interview. That 60 Minutes interview actually happened yesterday night. So does Donald Trump and Anthony Scaramucci know something we don't about the intention of China? We know that after the China mining ban, the majority of the hash rate migrated to the United States of America, specifically the state of Texas. So imagine how you're feeling as the Chinese government, right? You're seeing one of the upcoming industries, right, that's attracting all of this capital like a black hole, right? All these the best performing public companies, right? You have MicroStrategy, 26x, like went from like $1 billion market cap to 100 billion, I think, at the peak, right? And of course, you have Bitcoin treasury companies popping up all over the world, right? You have it being embraced by the administration, right? You have these publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies that are all around the world deploying their fleets, right? Tapping into stranded energy. Imagine looking at it from the Chinese government's perspective. We had the majority of the hash rate within our borders and we kicked it out. And now the United States of America is actually, has an advantage. Are we going to allow that to happen? And of course, who benefits from all of this? When countries compete, to get the hash rate, when countries compete to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible, who wins? The Bitcoin holder. So I know as the price is dropping right now, we went from 110K to 108K. Think about this, right? This is absolutely bananas. So I'm going to play you guys a clip of Anthony Scaramucci talking about China potentially getting back into Bitcoin. And I find it interesting because Donald Trump's saying the same thing. What do they know that we do not?
And now that the United States is open to this idea, I think it would be impossible to suggest that other countries are not going to do the same thing. And I'm sitting here today in December of 2024. I'll make a prediction here that by this time next year, the Chinese will be back in the Bitcoin game. They're probably going to add it to their reserve assets, and they're going to probably allow for people to mine it legally. I mean, it's ironic 10% of the mining is still happening in China, despite the fact that the Chinese Communist Party has disallowed it. But you're going to see this opening. It's almost like a match sailing race you're not going to be in a position in the world in developing economies where the U.S. is moving towards Bitcoin and you're not moving towards Bitcoin.
So, I mean, find it very interesting, man. Right. And I want to talk about the dates, Opti. You know, he's dropping the dates, basically saying like, look, this is going to happen. You know, he was referencing from 2024 when that was recorded. Right. And now you have the president of the United States going on 60 Minutes. Again, I'm not a 60 Minutes fan. I don't like how they editorialize things and how they like clip out certain things. But, you know, coming from legacy media, it does have a tremendous reputation. Like if you've been on legacy media, you know, 30 years ago, that was the equivalent of making it on the Joe Rogan podcast. And he's going there and he's basically saying like, look, if we don't do it, China's going to get on this thing. Right. So, you know, that's just incentives. And I think that's just showing that, you know, the Bitcoin incentives are doing what the man, I don't know what's going on with Restream, dude. What? They gotta
I totally fixed it on Friday and it's still acting up.
Restream's got to get their act together. But anyways, yeah, man, I want to get your thoughts, Opti. Like, is China officially heading back into Bitcoin?
I totally think so. So I also saw this morning a headline basically saying that Hong Kong is now allowing their citizens on exchanges to participate in global liquidity pools. And so Hong Kong just opened themselves up to global Bitcoin markets, no longer kind of clamping down on it. They're essentially allowing everyone to go in. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, Hong Kong doesn't necessarily mean China. But one thing that we have been covering for a long time, and Nico's more kind of well-versed in this idea, is the meme of, you know, two countries, one policy. And we have been covering for the last couple of months, actually, I think it's been over a year, where we've kind of been speculating on this idea that China's slowly moving towards Bitcoin, but they're using Hong Kong to do that move. We saw them launch an ETF shortly after Larry Fink, and now we're just saw literally this morning. So the timing is probably the most interesting aspect about this. We saw Trump go on 60 Minutes. That was what, Friday, or was it last night? I don't know exactly the timing of this, but couple of days after, we hear news coming out of Hong Kong saying, hey, we're going to allow our exchanges to participate in global markets here, which is kind of connecting these dots. And now, you know, maybe you're not the biggest fan of Trump or whatever, but he is definitely sending a warning to the world right now. We want to be the best. We want to be number one, and we can't lose this race. And so it really goes back to a lot of the conversations we've been having on the show for a while, whether the Trump administration is serious about Bitcoin, about passing an SBR, about passing pro-Bitcoin regulations. We know they want to go all in on stablecoins, and I think that might be kind of why he said crypto per se. Obviously, you guys understand, if you've been watching the show for a while, you understand why stablecoins are so important to the U.S. Even Senator Lummis has been saying they think that they can maintain dollar hegemony with stablecoins. Essentially, stablecoins are the biggest treasury buyers. They need to find new treasury buyers because people aren't looking to buy treasuries. The returns aren't there. Obviously, they just cut interest rates. The national debt is getting crazy. We know what they're going to do. They're going to print their way out of this. They have to print their way out of this, which is why they think that stablecoin is going to fill that demand right now. This is why they're pushing for stablecoins. I think this is why Trump said crypto. Maybe, you know, you could argue he's older. He isn't separating Bitcoin from crypto. But remember, when he was at the Bitcoin conference, he very specifically said Bitcoin. Maybe that was just because he had good PR and, you know, David Bailey was telling him, like, say Bitcoin specifically, and their script writers added that to the script. But here you can see, he is very actively saying, like, there is a new trade war going on. And it's not the trade war that you think it is. It is being, you know, fought over Bitcoin and who's going to be the Bitcoin dominant superpower right now. As we've all been covering, and as Bitcoiners have been saying for a long time, the new battleground is, are you going to adopt new technologies, whether that's AI or Bitcoin? Those are, you know, all the hype the last couple of years is AI and Bitcoin. And obviously, they have to position themselves to be, you know, number one in those industries or those sectors if they want to maintain kind of their dominance here. Now, of course, there's a lot of wars and trade war conversation and more traditional kind of trade war behavior, but it is interesting that he went out on 60 Minutes. Like, maybe we don't watch 60 Minutes. I can't remember the last time I watched the full 60 Minutes, but this is sending a signal to all of the older generation, like this is where our new fight is heading. So I think this is very interesting that he came out and very specifically in very strong words was like, this is where the battle is headed. Again, if you just listen to what Trump says, I know a lot of people in the chat and in general are like, Trump's a liar. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He just says things. You could take that angle, but you could also take the angle that what we've been saying for a while, or rather what I've been saying for a while. I think he's been very clearly telegraphing and projecting where they're going. He says something, and then he has his administration like Scott Bessent be kind of his, his muscle in the background to do what he wants to do. And I think this year has been one of those years that it has felt kind of slow. There's been a lot of misdirection. You really don't know what's going on with the Trump administration. There's been some positive moves. Then it's been like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But it does seem like they are fundamentally trying to reorder the monetary system, fix the plumbing as it's put. And I think if what he's saying, if you can take it from just surface level, what he's saying, I think this is very interesting to be like, okay, so the new trade war is going to be around Bitcoin. Obviously, that includes stable coins. Now, I don't think it really includes all the other shit coins, but it doesn't really matter to him. Like we all saw what happened with Melania and Trump coin. They're like 99.8%. They're just wrecked. But you also have to remember, World Liberty Finance is very huge in stable coins. They launched their own stable coin. So even though they're doing this stable coin push, that just means that Bitcoin's going to get through the door. They can't essentially just push stable coins and not push Bitcoin through the door. So I think this is the war. It's not so much just about Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is the Trojan horse here. It's about kind of proliferating stable coins and dollar strength around the world. And we've seen the opposite happen on the BRICS nations. They have been pushing very hard to move away from the dollar. There's been a lot of posturing to move away from the dollar. There's been a lot of posturing from the US to make sure that they stay on the dollar. And now we're seeing they're using this narrative here of we're going to be the number one in crypto. Obviously, Bitcoin's going to get through the door on that. Yeah, exactly. Number one in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to get through the door with that. But it's really a huge push for stable coins to kind of secure dollar hegemony via people buying treasuries. So China's been very, very upfront about they're on the ball. They understand what's going on with stablecoin. Remember what Putin said a while, or no, it wasn't Putin. It was one of his ministers, economic advisors. He's like, the U.S. is going to push stablecoins so that they can devalue their debt. So like, it's not that the playbook isn't known. So when you hear things like this, it really does show you like, oh, they are actually having a trade war now, a new trade war that most people are missing. And it is revolving around Bitcoin and stablecoins. And so as a Bitcoiner, I'm like, okay, look, I won't hold stablecoins. I want Bitcoin to win. But it does seem like we are seeing kind of a changing of the guard right now from old economic paradigms to a new economic paradigm. And of course, I know we're going to talk about it later about maybe potentially what's happening with the price right now, but it is all kind of aligning to this perfect storm. It's like, okay, maybe 2025 wasn't the year we thought it was going to be. But as I've been saying on the show for the last couple of weeks, it's probably going to be looked back on as the year that fundamentally set Bitcoin being from a speculative kind of, ugly redheaded stepchild in the corner to a fundamental economic monetary asset. And it sounds like President Trump's all over on board on that one.
100%. I 100% agree with you also, too. And Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, actually posted this on Friday, I believe. We were talking about it. 17.
No, this happened after the show, but
yeah, this is crazy. So this kind of goes along with what the points that Opti was making and how this administration feels about Bitcoin. And again, this is night and day compared to the previous administration. The previous administration used Operation Choke Point 2.0 to attack Bitcoin in 50 different, I call it death by 1,000 regulatory cuts, right? They went after the mining industry. They went after developers. You know, they arrested some of the biggest, you know, Bitcoin, I wouldn't say Bitcoin, I'd say crypto entrepreneurs like CZ, Arthur Hayes, both of which have gotten pardons by now, by the way. The big one was CZ recently, which, by the way, that was actually a point of contention. That was something that was asked during the 60 Minutes interview. So you could see how Bitcoin is playing like this central role in one of the policies from this administration. And again, I think it's all about aligning. The sixth largest Bitcoin treasury company was, did we drop off?
We're back. We're back on my end.
Let me see. Are we?
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay,
guys. I don't know what's going on over here.
It's frozen on my end.
No, you're good. You're live.
Okay. So yeah, so Scott Bessent, again, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, right, is going out there and he's literally preaching Satoshi's gospel, which is nuts. This is gnarly. He literally posted this October 31st. It was after the show. You know, again, 17 years after the white paper, the Bitcoin network is still operational and more resilient than ever. Bitcoin never shuts down. You know, and of course he makes it political, talking about the government shutdown and all that stuff. But again, you know, it's very clear that this administration feels that Bitcoin is a key component of their policy, and how they can maintain American supremacy, you know, for the next century or so. Like Bitcoin is a key component of that. And again, this alignment of incentives with Bitcoiners. Bitcoiners have been saying this for a long time. I didn't think we were going to get into the nation state game, right? I didn't think we were going to be rooting, you know, for the Fed to lower rates. I didn't think we were going to be rooting, you know, money printer go burr. We've so been used to being attacked. We've so been used to being the underdog that I think it caught a lot of us by surprise. Like I remember January, the feelings that I was having when Trump was inaugurated, when the first executive order was released, the fact that, you know, Bitcoin was mentioned in an executive order and it wasn't mentioned in this hostile manner, how it has been. Right? The previous administration, again, it was hostile. And as Trump said during that interview, you know, I can make a very solid argument that one of the main reasons as to why Kamala lost the last election was her stance on crypto. Now, they tried to backpedal towards the end. They tried to, like, you know, take it back. But if you guys have been tuning into the show, we took a very simple stance. We said, we want to see it officially in the Democratic Party official documents, what their actual stance is on crypto. We don't want this, you know, cheap talk. We don't want a little subtle tweet. Right? No, we actually want to see the policy, because our lived experience for the last 4 years was that they used the full might of the federal government and all the regulatory agencies to go after our industry. They went after specific banks that were pro crypto, pro Bitcoin, right? So what did we say? I remember I posted this. I had it saved to drafts, but the Overton window didn't shift enough for it to be for the post to come out in public. But I basically said, look, listen, guys, I think it's probably a good idea, you know, that Biden doesn't win another term, right? And the post went viral because everyone else was thinking it as well. But again, Bitcoiners went through this very uncomfortable, you know, transformation, this change of mindset where, you know, we were never in DC. We were never part of the political conversation. We were never in the room. If you're not in the room, you're not in the deal. And then all of a sudden, right, we were forced into a corner because of the previous administration's policy and their regulations towards the entire industry. And we threw our political hat in the ring. And shout out to David Bailey and the Winklevi twins, because they really, you know, move this forward. And of course, we have David Sachs in the White House. We have Howard Lutnick, right? All very pro Bitcoin. They own Bitcoin. They have huge bags. They all played a very big piece, and I'm sure there's a lot of other people. Of course, Senator Lummis, the Bitcoin senator. So yes, I mean, we went from having a hostile administration that you can make an argument that it cost them the election, the fact that they were so hostile towards Bitcoin and crypto, to a pro Bitcoin administration, to the point that it's even being brought up on the staple of staples of legacy media interviews, which is 60 Minutes. I'm not a big fan of because they editorialize it. They take it's an hour and a half interview and they only air 20 minutes. So they get to pick and choose what clips they want to play, right? I'm not a big fan of that.
We should do that.
I'm not a big fan of that, but that's how legacy media works. But yeah, I mean, this is a huge deal. And again, talk about incentives, going back to what Max Kaiser was talking about, the global hash war. Yes, of course, that's going to force, one of America's biggest competitors, largest competitors. They see America and they say, I want to get there. Of course, that's going to force their hand. That's why Anthony Scaramucci said what he said. And again, we're not privy to a lot of the information that Donald Trump is privy to. He has access to classified information. And of course, the president of the United States does so. And of course, he's looking at this, he's seeing the writing on the wall, and he says, hey, guys, if we don't get our act together, they're going to eat our lunch. And I love how he talked about that, Opti. He's like, look, this is winner takes all, right? This is winner takes all. There isn't going to be a competition. There's going to be a winner, and there's going to be a loser. Now, do you want to be on the side of the winners, or do you want to be on the side of losers? Now, it's weird as a Bitcoiner, right, talking about, we got booted again, dude.
No, I'm
okay.
here. You're still here for me.
It's weird as a Bitcoiner talking about this like nation state, this nation state dynamic between one and the other, and how, we're rooting for our government, right, to basically win the race, right? That's very strange. But again, I think it's a different ball game, right? It's a different ball game. For most of this channel's history, we've always been talking about the individual. And I think it still is a revolution of individuals. Like the revolution here is millions upon millions of individuals taking Bitcoin and putting it to self-custody. That's the revolution. That's what's actually going to change the world. But at the same time, to think that fiat politics is just going to go by the wayside, if to think that you're going to have your Bitcoin in self-custody and all of a sudden you don't have to care about, the person who's in power, to think that is somehow, a good idea, I think is completely naive. And I think this last election showed that. We came together as an industry, as a movement. And because of the person we put in the White House, we got Ross Ulbricht free. That is a huge, like, if that is not a better representation of the importance of politics, I don't know what is. Because if we didn't do that, Ross would still be in prison. And it was an unjustified sentencing, right? So again, you have a pro-Bitcoin administration that's going to allow Bitcoin entrepreneurs to thrive in the United States. You have, again, an administration that's going to leave Bitcoiners alone. And again, you have an administration that potentially could actually announce a strategic Bitcoin reserve and make number go up. Now, that's my only problem that I have with President Trump at the moment. So far, he's completed all his, again, not getting into other policy or political matters. This is not that type of show, but specifically sticking to Bitcoin. He's kept all his promises. Operation Choke Point 2.0 is over, right? This attack towards our industry is done. This pro-Bitcoin administration, it's there. You have the Treasury Secretary wishing Bitcoin happy birthday. I mean, yes, this is absolutely fantastic. You have Ross free, of course. So you have a bunch of pardons for some of the biggest entrepreneurs in the industry. So he's kept his promise. The only promises he hasn't kept is number go up. Now, I have a theory behind that, Opti, and we were talking about it the other day. My theory is that I think he's packing his bags, and I don't think he wants number to go up until his bags are packed. I could be completely wrong there. But also, we had this amazing article which we're going to cover during the news that you guys are really going to enjoy. But it's basically reasoning, explaining why Bitcoin didn't moon in 2025. And it's actually making the case that we actually might see an extended cycle. And I have a clip for you guys of the author actually going on Anthony Pompliano's podcast talking about this specific subject. And he wrote a Substack article about it, which I'm really, really excited to get to. But before we move on to that, I'm going to pass it back on to Opti. I mean, Opti, President Trump, I remember 2024, we were at the conference, we were on the news desk, we were talking about the significance of this, the historical, like this has never happened in history. We were always attacked, right? You had RFK Jr., which went hard in the paint, right? He's like, look, if you elect me for president, the United States of America is going to buy 5 million Bitcoin, right? But then you had, again, the Republican frontrunner, so a mainstream party going on there saying the same thing, saying, listen, we're going to end the battle against crypto that was happening with the previous administration. And he kept all those promises. And then right after, you had Senator Lummis, of course, go out on stage and talk about Bitcoin Act 2.0. You had Brian Armstrong. I saw a clip of him on X the other day, basically making the case this close from passing the Clarity Act. Am I off air?
I got you, dude.
We are this close from passing the Clarity Act, right? So again, like, this is all extremely promising. Like, this is all a very, very good developments. I think the only thing that caught a lot of us completely off guard is the fact that you had the most bullish year in Bitcoin's history from a historical perspective, from a news perspective. This has been incredible. These are the things we dreamed about. These are the things we talked about for years, but it just never came to fruition. Now they're here. The things are actually happening, right? Now, the only thing that hasn't reflected that, of course, has been the price, but I think that's going to catch up. And we have a fantastic article explaining why the price has not performed the way it has. And the logic on it is very, very sound, right? So I think we're in uncharted territory. This was the first October, the last October that just happened. We're in November now. This was the first October, the year after the halving, that Bitcoin hasn't gone up. We had a red October. That's never happened before. So we're already in uncharted territory. One of the things that made me uncomfortable in the beginning of the year was the fact that everybody and their mother thought that Bitcoin was going to rip. That everyone thought that. That was the general consensus. But if you know about markets, what do markets tell you? Markets do the exact opposite of what everybody thinks. So what did Bitcoin do? It did the exact opposite of what everybody thinks. Now, what is the general consensus now? The general consensus now is that, hey, Nico, Bitcoin topped. Everyone's feeling fear, right? You don't feel fear at the top of a bull market. That's not the way it works. You feel euphoria, right? You feel like a genius, right? Everyone thinks, oh my God, look, the cycle's going to end in a month or two. It's over. Pack it up. No one is thinking that potentially Bitcoin is in uncharted territory and this thing might keep ripping into 2026. Even saying that feels taboo. Even saying that feels uncomfortable. Could you imagine March of next year and Bitcoin is at 150K and it's still ripping higher? It's inconceivable. We could not have even imagined that because we're so used to this 4-year cycle that we've only had 3 data points on. There's only been 3 data points on the 4-year cycle. And I would leave out 2013, 2014, because the big 2 ones were 2017 and 2021. So, I mean, again, it's not that many data points for you to like seriously say that, hey, Bitcoin has to stick to the cycle. And things have changed. Right? Like the halvings don't play such a big role anymore.
Remember, we got an all-time high before the halving this time as well.
It was different. The ETFs are in the game. Governments are accumulating Bitcoin. Like the Kingdom of Bhutan in the Himalayas, 1/3 of their GDP is in Bitcoin. They're using all of that excess energy from hydro, those rivers that are coming down from the Himalayas, those glaciers, and they're turning that into Bitcoin. Like, it's insane, right? So you're saying that all of these things are happening. Right? All of these things that I just painted the picture for you, right? A pro-Bitcoin administration. You have nation states accumulating Bitcoin. You have nation states mining Bitcoin, right? You have, Michael Saylor's company, the best performing, company in the NASDAQ, about to be added into the Fortune 500, right? You have Coinbase that was added into the Fortune 500. So again, you have all the stars and planets aligning. And when Trump was inaugurated, the first pro-Bitcoin president, the price was at 109K. 11 months later, the price is at 107K. And you're telling me you're bearish. You're telling me you're bearish. Like, use logic for a second. If you use logic, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Now, again, we're going to go do a deep dive into why the price went down. We're going to do a deep dive into that. And I think the article that was laid out was fantastic. And then we're going to be talking about 2026. And of course, during the culture segment, we're going to be talking about the vibes, because we got to talk about the vibes, bro. Because October, I think, was a very, a year of a month, better said, because it's not a year, it's a month, a month of looking within, of finding yourself as a Bitcoiner. I think that's what October represented, man. October was this month that everyone was expecting euphoria and happiness, and that's not what happened. What happened was pain. But the thing is, when you feel pain, you learn something. It forces you to look within. It forces you to really look at your decisions and say, did I make the right decision? Did I make the right call? Right? So anyways, I've never felt so bullish as I feel today. And I think we needed to go through what we went through in October to learn from it, right? To remember that having expectations in Bitcoin is a horrible idea. And to remember that staying humble, stacking sats, and staying solvent is always the best idea. Anyways, guys, we're going to have a fantastic show lined up for you guys. It's going to be incredible. If you guys are enjoying today's show so far, make sure to smash that like button. Really, really helps us with the algos. We're already at 533 live viewers on YouTube. Smash the like button. Really, really helps push this message forward. And of course, shout out to the Rumble audience as well, coming in strong. We absolutely love the Rumble platform here at Simply Bitcoin. And of course, shout out to the X audience. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform, make sure to like the show, leave a comment, share the show. Really, really helps with the algos. We're currently at 133 likes, 35 likes on YouTube alone. Help us break 75 likes within the first 45 minutes of the show. All you got to do is smash that like button. Anyways, guys, stay tuned. We still have tons to cover. But before we do that, I do want to give an incredibly special shout out, of course, to our lead sponsor. Simply Bitcoin would not be possible without our partners, and we're very picky on who we choose to partner with. I want to tell you guys about bitcoinwell.com. The reason we recommend bitcoinwell.com here at Simply Bitcoin is that it's an automatic self-custody Bitcoin on-ramp. What does that mean? That means that when they sell you Bitcoin, they don't even leave you the ability to leave the Bitcoin on the exchange, meaning you have to take self-custody when you buy Bitcoin from BitcoinWell. They did it the right way, right? So you buy Bitcoin on BitcoinWell, your funds clear and go straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply to get signed up today. If you're a higher net worth individual, they offer the same service, a white glove service, a tailored service. You're going to have your own dedicated account representative. This is a product designed for high net worth individuals, family offices, trusts, and organizations. So it's simple. You wire $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, and you have that Bitcoin in your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address within 24 hours or less. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC. Tell them that Simply Bitcoin sent you, and you're in very good hands. All right, everybody, let's start the show. We have tons to get to today. We'll be right back in just a bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates. Instead of just writing them down on paper, paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody, we are back. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. It'll take you directly to the StampSeed website. Get yourself a metal plate where you can literally hammer your seed words into this titanium plate. This is the 12-word plate. This is how you store your seed words, guys. Don't write down your seed words on paper. That's a big no-no. Stamp them into the strongest metal, one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. It will survive the test of time. All right, everybody, let's get to today's numbers. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $107,380. Block height, 922,077. Market cap, 2.14 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 7.57%. Decline from all-time high. Bitcoin's down 15% from the top. 15%. Hurts a little bit. Hurts a little bit. Stings.
Just a little bit.
Stings a little bit. A little bit. Anyways, I do want to pull up these tweets because, again, I keep seeing them. I keep seeing this. This could be the coat. This could be the coat. Just, this is not financial advice.
We're totally coping.
This is not financial advice. This could be the coat. But anyways, here's plan C. It says the 3 very important years for Bitcoin. 2024, the year of the ETF. 2025, Bitcoin's quasi IPO. Parentheses, OGs take profits. We're going to get to that. We're going to do a deep dive during the news segment on that specific topic. And 2026, the year of the 4-year cycle narrative breaking. So the end of the 4-year cycle. Now, the reason I'm highlighting this, ladies and gentlemen, is it's against consensus. It's against consensus. Talk about 4-year cycle. And even think about it for a second. You're watching the show right now. And I'm talking about, no, dude, it's different this time. This time's different, like and I'm telling you, dude, picture 150K in March. Yeah, not financial advice. What is your innate reaction? Your innate reaction is probably like what Opti just did. That's impossible. No way. This is a cycle, bro. We topped 126K. It's over. It's done. Right? That's like your innate reaction. That's your gut reaction to this, especially if you've been, I love the comment, Nicopium. Love it. But if you've been in this industry for a while,
I think it's Nicopium.
Nicopium. if you've been in this industry for a while, it doesn't sound too crazy. Like what I'm saying, like, is just like, no, you understand, like, this is a 4-year cycle, the year after the halvings or whatever. It's a parabola, blows off top. The thing resets, then 3 years of bear, and then the cycle repeats. The thing is, that never happened. That never came to fruition. And again, if you look at the fundamentals, if you look at the success of the Bitcoin BlackRock ETF is the most successful ETF in history. It's one of the I think it is BlackRock's most profitable, right?
It is, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if you look at the fundamentals, they're telling you a story. Now, what's really interesting is I actually saw, I don't know if I have the clip. I do have the clip. I have a clip of Peter Thiel, and he was talking about this. And he's actually saying, hey, look, the BlackRock getting involved in Bitcoin isn't actually a positive thing. And actually the upside is limited, right? So he did say that. I'm going to play you guys a clip. At the same time, he did admit that he wished he bought more. So he's been wrong about this in the past, but I want to play you guys this clip because I think it's very interesting, and then me and Opti are going to talk about it.
Because another investment that you've made and been very public about is Bitcoin. And you have remained a very big bull. You have come out publicly and you said that enemy number 1 to Bitcoin is the sociopathic grandpa from Omaha that you described as Warren Buffett. Can you tell me what you were thinking when you said that?
It got a lot of laughs, so somehow people, it probably hit some kind of a nerve, but it was in a 2022 Bitcoin convention talk I gave, and there were 3 separate enemies. There was Jamie Dimon, Larry
Fink, who's no longer an enemy, by the way.
Yeah, he sort of shifted, but I can say some anti-Larry Fink things too. But and then there was Warren Buffett, and the rough context was my sort of political, sociological analysis was the cryptocurrencies it was a revolutionary youth movement, but for them to really take over, you needed, it couldn't just be a student uprising like 1968. You needed to get the rest of the society on board. And as long as the old people were going to sit on their hands, that was the big blocker for cryptocurrencies to go to the next level. And
are you still convinced?
I think it's gotten partially unlocked with the Bitcoin ETF, but then there, probably the part where I'm less convinced of is this question of the sort of ideological founding vision of Bitcoin or these cryptocurrencies as sort of a cypherpunk, crypto-anarchist, libertarian, anti-centralized government thing. This is always the line.
Isn't that what got you interested in the first place?
That's what I thought was terrific about it. And then the question is, does it really work that way, or has that thread somehow gotten lost? And so when people in the FBI tell me that they'd much rather have criminals use Bitcoin than $100 bills, it suggests that maybe it's not quite working the way it was supposed to.
Have you sold any of your Bitcoin?
I still hold some. There are all these ways I didn't buy as much as I should have, and I'm not sure it's going to go up that dramatically from here.
From here?
Yeah, I think we got the ETF edition, and I don't know who else buys it quickly from here.
Some interesting investment advice. That actually surprised me because I don't think I've heard you. I thought you were still all in.
I still have a small position. It probably still can go up some, but it's going to be a volatile, bumpy ride. And I had a dual reason. One was this sort of ideological, decentralized future of computing world that I really do believe in. Really believe would be better. And it seemed like the perfect vehicle for that for such a long time, and I am just much less convinced of that. And so
interesting.
So maybe Larry Fink with the BlackRock ETF surrendered to the forces, the anti-ESG forces, or maybe it's more like Bitcoin's been co-opted by them, and I worry it was more the latter.
Oh, shot across the bow, bro. What do you think? He said a couple things to unpack there. He loved the cypherpunk revolution initially, and he sees that cypherpunk revolution dwindling. I agree with them there. And then he claimed, he's like, might have been co-opted by the fellas over at BlackRock. And he did name drop Larry Fink a couple times, So I don't know, Opti. What do you think? The reason I'm saying it this way and with this tone is it's almost as if Peter Thiel was watching you talk about was watching.
Yeah, well, first of all, how hard can I go on Peter Thiel here? Because
I mean, we got to remember that.
Yeah, I know I'm on YouTube. I mean,
specific platforms.
All right, so I mean, my initial take is like, bro, like today, Junior. I mean, I don't know if that's mean to say, but I'm not the biggest fan of Peter Thiel. One, it's like extremely hard to listen to him, stutter through everything. I know he's like super smart and everyone says he's super smart, but he doesn't sound that smart personally from my perspective.
I think he's a genius. I just think that he's not
I don't know about
a very good orator.
I don't know about all that.
I think he's a really smart guy.
Maybe, potentially. But my second take on this is it is a little more cynical and more of like a troll. If Peter Thiel doesn't like Bitcoin anymore, I'm kind of okay with that. Like I'm like, all right, cool. Like we're doing exactly what we're supposed to do. Like I have a little position, but I don't think it's going to do anything. So he's not investing that much in it. I'm like, I am totally okay with all that. Like I am fine with, the PayPal friend group not being that big into Bitcoin. I'm totally okay with this. I'm 100% fine. This doesn't scare me at all. I think he does kind of have a point there with this whole idea since the Wall Street got into Bitcoin, or, you know, Wall Street institutions got into Bitcoin. There is a lot to be said about maybe they are taming Bitcoin in terms of price.
I don't think that's what he meant.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
I think he meant.
I know.
We've actually brought this up.
Yeah, I know. I that's what I'm saying. Like, I know what he's saying. What I'm saying is I think there is something to the idea that they are taming Bitcoin in terms of price, because these asset managers, they want stability. And we're going to talk about this in a minute after we read this, you know, IPO article that really went fire on Friday. And so I think there is a point to what he's saying. And I've been saying it on the show, guys. I also kind of agree with this whole idea of like, is Larry Fink? At least I've been speculating on it. I've you know, reflected on it. I have, you know, been doubting, what are we doing? What we are doing? Is this actually what we thought it was? Like, I think all of us have had these doubts this year. But it is becoming very clear that there is kind of like a two-tier Bitcoin system that's being kind of proliferated right now. It's like, if you have Bitcoin in Wall Street, I love how Adam O'Brien calls it captured Bitcoin. To me, I think that's the best framing is if your Bitcoin is in Wall Street products and you are giving up your keys for that Bitcoin, then I would kind of agree that Bitcoin is co-opted. But when you look at the numbers, the majority of Bitcoin is still held in self-custody. And that's what makes me think, okay, yeah, they are incentivizing a lot of people to swap their Bitcoin for Wall Street products. And I don't know if you guys saw the number, but the month of October, we saw about 400,000 coins hit the exchange from OGs. Like, that's a ton of coin that hit the exchanges, and the price is still above 100K. So you can argue that people are selling out, maybe because of that whole, you know, they're done with the libertarian ethos. They think it's been co-opted, or it just does go to show what we're about to cover in a minute is, you know, the ones that took the risk are now being able to upgrade their lives, and you can't really be that mad about it. So I see what he's saying. That, yeah, it does look like Bitcoin is being co-opted, but I think this is what it looks like when something becomes mature. When people look at Bitcoin, it's no longer just this wild child, this speculative asset, like, don't touch it. We can tank the market. We can pump the markets. Now Bitcoin is holding very strongly above $2 trillion of a market cap. So people with literally, these institutions don't even look at an asset if it's not $2 trillion. Now we've been holding up above $2 trillion for over a year. They're finally looking at it. They finally feel comfortable investing in Bitcoin. So I think it's just like a transitory time right now where there is this transition, and it's hard to really see what is a signal from the noise. But again, I just kind of go back to if Peter Thiel is no longer liking Bitcoin, I think we're doing it right.
That's your indicator, right? Your
that's my indicator.
Is like, look, Peter Thiel's feeling bearish, limited upside, bullish.
Yeah,
so
100%.
So does that mean you're on the side of Larry then?
Yeah, Uncle Larry, pump my bags.
So we're Larry fans.
Dude,
we're not Peter fans.
I mean, dude, Larry is literally the real president of the US. So yes, I am a Larry fan, and I don't want to see Peter Thiel become the president of the US. Okay. I see what he's doing with Palantir. I'm not that comfortable with it. So I'd rather have Larry. At least we know the old boss and what he's about versus the new boss that's going to really walk us into a digital panopticon.
All right, we're going to pivot the conversation. Guys, I ran into this fantastic article that if you're on Bitcoin Twitter or Bitcoin X, however you want to call it, you're going to find it fascinating. And it breaks down precisely the reason as to why we didn't get an explosive 2025 that we were all expecting for. So basically, they're making the case that Bitcoin had its IPO moment, right? So we have the clip from the Anthony Pompliano podcast, and we have the Substack article to go along with it. We're going to have a deep dive into it. I think it's fascinating. I think it's a great explanation as to why this year things have been acting strange and different in terms of price. So anyways, we're going to play it. Once we get back from the break, we're going to be right back in just a bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY. All right, everybody, we are back. I'm holding in my hand the BitKey. It's sexy. It's easy to use. Again, all you got to do is put your finger, you tap it with your phone, bada bing, bada boom, you're ready to spend your cold storage Bitcoin, which you shouldn't be doing, but in case you do want to do it. And it's a multi-sig setup. So your phone has a key. There's a key in the cloud. And of course, there's a key in the BitKey, obviously. And it's a 2 of 3 multi-sig. Again, it's incredibly easy to use. It's the easiest Bitcoin hardware wallet I've ever seen. So again, if you have family and friends that you want to onboard them, you want them to take self-custody of their Bitcoin, but they're intimidated, the BitKey is a perfect recommendation. Scan the QR code on your screen or check the link in the video/podcast description. All right, everybody, let's jump straight into what I'm talking about. What I'm going to talk about today during the news. But first, I'm just going to play you guys the clip from the Anthony Pompliano podcast, and then we'll get into the article.
Every possible thing to everyone listening that you would want for Bitcoin is happening right now, meaning the government is supporting things. The financial guardrails are shifting. We've got news after news every single day about the financial guardrails becoming more digital economy. It's things that are necessary for the network effects to kick in. All of that has happened. We still see inflows from retail. We still see the banks now opening it up for people to go through. But there's clearly a bunch of whatever it is, OGs, Bitcoin miners out of China, whoever it is, large amounts. Mike Novogratz publicly said it. If you go back to July, there have been billions and billions of dollars of, let's say, original investors supporting Bitcoin, regardless of how you want to term it. So I'm writing a Substack. I think what people should think about is we don't have an IPO for Bitcoin, but this last 4 months to me feels like sourcing the pricing of the IPO, where the original investors are getting out of large chunks. Now, why is there ever an IPO? For monetization. If someone has 9 billion in Bitcoin, I think they should diversify a little bit. If it was related to China, guess what China has now that they haven't had since 2014, 15? a bull market in stocks. Guess what else people have? Well, they have the chance to invest in AI. AI is a 10-bagger in many cases. You've been able to do it in the public markets. So I think at some point, Bitcoin becomes a boring asset to people who are looking for 3-baggers, 4-baggers, 5-baggers. It becomes a diversification. So I think this is just a distribution of a few massive holders. And the weaknesses I have heard about Bitcoin as I've gotten into it from institutions, it's too volatile. Not too volatile anymore. We've taken the implied volatility and the actual realized volatility down to 30 and below in some cases. So the vols come down. Okay, what's the next thing? Well, it's too concentrated in ownership. I mean, I've gone through the numbers. When you add Satoshi's wallet, you add the other whales, you're talking about a third of it has been owned by not many people. I think like 10,000 is the number I heard. Regardless of what the right answer is, every month the Bitcoin IBIT outstanding shares goes up. It's up again this month, even though the price is down. So I think everyone that's depressed has actually become entitled. I think they think it's a risk asset. Oh, there's another one. This is just a risk asset. Okay, well, it's not going up with the NASDAQ, so that's good. Lower correlation. Well, it's just digital gold. Well, it's not going up with gold. So guess what? In portfolio theory, for everyone who hasn't bought any yet, I think with your stocks, with your gold, with your bonds, now there's every argument to make. It's lower volatility now, lower correlation with the other traditional asset class, diversification from gold. I think this thing is going to move higher. I was wrong about where I thought we'd be at this point. It's still up for the year. I think once this consolidation is done and we're through the IPO process and the fundamentals take over, next year, once we get through clarity and the beginning of tokenization and the stories of Zelle and everything along those lines, I think we're going to have an acceleration.
So interesting thesis, right? And I want to pull this up. It's a comment from someone. It says, Rivers Research, could you do a wide shot opti? Rivers Research estimates that as of August 25th, 2025, individuals hold about 65.9% of BTC, or 13.83 million coins. It's never happened before. And again, the part where, we saw this with Mike Novogratz, how he publicly talked about how there was someone that came to him that sold about $80,000 worth of Bitcoin. You're seeing basically
no, it was like 9 billion.
9 billion.
It was like 80,000
right?
coins.
And you're seeing here basically this individual, Keefe boy talking about Rivers Research estimates out of August 25th, individuals hold the majority of it. Before, and we're going to get to it, says this, it talks about this during the article, but before there was no liquidity, right? So if you were an OG and you had billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin in 2021, if unloading that, you would have tanked the market, right? There was no one buying. There were no mechanisms. There were no ETF inflow. You couldn't do it if you wanted to, right? Now it's different. You have Larry Fink, that Opti is a fan of, buying it instead, right? You had the ETFs basically coming in. And even now, right, we've gone from 126K. We're currently sitting at 107K. Maybe the bull market is over. Maybe we've peaked, right? I don't think so. I don't think that's the case, but I could be wrong, right? Could be wrong. We were all expecting October. I think we're just taking one day at a time. But I thought this article was fascinating. And it was written by this individual, and
Jordi VIsser,
and he's basically describing, what happened, right? So we're gonna check it out. So you guys could check it out yourself. I'm gonna put it in the Rumble and YouTube chats. I'm putting it in the chats right now. I really suggest you guys read the article. I'm gonna put it in the Nostr chat as well. And Opti, if you could put it in the Twitter chat, I'd appreciate it. I don't know why it's not sending for me on Nostr, so if you want to put it on there. But anyways, I really recommend reading this article. I thought it was fascinating, really, really well written. But let's check it out. So it's called Bitcoin's Silent. Could you make it wide shot, Opti? Because it's weird when I'm just looking down on my computer. Bitcoin's Silent IPO. Why this consolidation isn't what you think. The quiet liquidity event reshaping Bitcoin's ownership base and its future stability. So the Twitter community is filled with this very anxious question. Why isn't BTC pumping with everything else? We have Bitcoin ETFs that launch successfully and see inflows every month. Institutional adoption is accelerating. The Genius Act passed. The Clarity Act is coming soon. There's no regulatory crackdown, no major hack, no fundamental narrative breakdown. Everything that was supposed to matter happened. Yet here we are, watching every other asset rally while Bitcoin treads water. What if everyone is looking at this wrong? What if Bitcoin isn't broken? What if it's finally having its TradFi version of an IPO? Moving on. On a recent Galaxy Digital earnings call, Mike Novogratz announced Galaxy has sold $9 billion worth of Bitcoin for one customer. $9 billion. Think about that number for a moment. That isn't retail panic. That isn't some trader getting shaken out. This is one of the OG players in the space methodically exiting a massive position. But they're taking profits. They're realizing gains. They're doing exactly what early stage investors are supposed to do when an asset matures and liquidity finally exists to support large exits. For the first time ever, you can actually exit your position without doing it.
I got you.
They're doing it during a risk-on environment, specifically because that's when buyers have capital. Selling into strength elsewhere, that's just smart business. This is what the OG whales have been waiting for. Not price. Price they've already had. Liquidity, market depth, and the ability to actually exit. The mission is accomplished. Bitcoin proves itself. Now comes the reward. Buyers are stepping in, just not aggressively, just not emotionally. They're accumulating patiently, waiting for the distribution to complete.
You're good, dude.
This is the exact pattern you see after a major IPO when lockup periods expire. The stock doesn't crash, it consolidates. Let me share the screen. Sorry, guys, I don't know what's going on with our streaming software. Anyways, thank you, Opti. This is the exact pattern you see after a major IPO when lockup periods expire. The stock doesn't crash, it consolidates. The changing of the guard. This transition is profound and it deserves recognition. Bitcoin was born from an ideology. It was created by cypherpunks who believed in decentralization and freedom from government control and mathematical certainty over institutional trust. The early adopters were rebels, outcasts, and visionaries who saw what others couldn't. Those people are being made whole. They're passing the torch, and the torch is being received by entities who care less about ideology and more about returns. BlackRock doesn't care about being your own bank. They care about portfolio diversification and risk-adjusted returns. Is that a loss? In some ways, yes. Bitcoin will probably never again have that radical energy in it that it had in its early days. The days of 100x returns in a single year are likely over. The volatility that created life-changing wealth will moderate as ownership becomes more distributed. But it's also a victory because Bitcoin survived long enough to become boring. It succeeded so thoroughly that the original believers can actually cash out. It proved itself to the point where the most conservative financial institutions in the world are buying it. And more importantly, from a market structure perspective, this distribution is enormously bullish long term. But as ownership distributes, as millions of investors hold smaller positions instead of thousands holding massive ones, the markets become structurally more stable. Think about it practically. If 100 people own 50% of the supply and one person decides to sell, that's 0.5% of the entire supply hitting the market. That moves the price. But if 100 million people own 50% of the, 1 million people own 50% of the supply and 10,000 decide to sell, that's still only 0.5% of the supply, but it's spread across thousands of transactions at different prices through different venues over time. The impact is diffused. The stock becomes less volatile, not because the company is less exciting, but because ownership structure is more robust. Each Bitcoin that transfers from concentrated hands to distributed hands makes the network more resilient, makes the price more stable, makes the asset more mature. Yes, this means the wild 10x years are probably behind us, but it also means the risk of a catastrophic collapse from concentrated selling is diminishing. A distributed holder base is what separates a speculative asset from a durable store of value. It's what allows something to graduate from magic internet money to global monetary asset. If this thesis is correct, and I believe the evidence is strong the evidence strongly suggests it is, what could investors expect? First, patience. IPO distribution periods typically last 6 to 18 months. I think we are way past the 6 months in Bitcoin time. For now, expect continued consolidation. Second, less volatility. As ownership distributes, the violent swings that characterize previous cycles will moderate. The drawdowns, the 80% drawdowns that used to be routine, may become 50% drawdowns. And the 50% drawdowns will become 30% drawdowns. The 10x rallies may become 3x rallies. I'll take it. This will disappoint degenerate gamblers and thrill risk managers. Third, the correlation with traditional risk assets will likely return, but only after this distribution phase completes. Fourth, this is crucial. The sentiment will only improve after the distribution is substantially complete. Right now, people are demoralized because they don't understand what phase we're in. We're waiting for Bitcoin to catch up to stocks. They're worried about the 4-year cycle. Be patient. Once the heavy selling pressure lifts, once the patient accumulation by institutions has absorbed the OG supply, the path becomes clear. Every revolutionary technology goes through this evolution. What's happening to Bitcoin right now isn't different. It's the same economic forces that have governed markets for centuries, just playing out in a novel context. And here's the crucial insight that should give long-term investors confidence. Once this distribution phase completes, Bitcoin will be structurally stronger than it's ever been. But the fundamentals are stronger than ever. And the distribution of holdings from concentrated to fragmented is exactly what Bitcoin needs to graduate from a revolutionary experiment to a durable monetary asset. That's not a reason to despair. That's a reason to accumulate. Bitcoin's volatility was the price of its birth. Its stability will be the proof of its adulthood. Fantastic article. Shout out to Jordi. Hopefully we get him on the podcast one day, bro, because that was excellent. Now, again, this is a thesis, right? This isn't a fact. So don't take it as a fact. But I will say the logic is sound, because that's the thing that I keep hearing over and over and over again when I ask people. You know, I had the honor of being able to interview Samson and Adam Back. These are people that have been in the industry since the beginning, right? And you know, they were talking about it, the same reasons. Like these are OGs that are selling, right? And before, you couldn't sell. You couldn't sell without just tanking the market. And if you had $9 billion worth of an asset that you've been holding for 15 years, I mean, maybe you just sell 25% of it and upgrade your lifestyle, right? 15 years. And you hear this over and over again. You hear about these stories about these coins that have just been sitting silently in these addresses for more than a decade, and all of a sudden they just become active, right? I want to know who those people are. I want to have a conversation with them, right?
I want to be their friends.
Even though we'll never know who they are. But, you know, I think the logic is sound, man. I think Bitcoin potentially might be having its IPO moment. Potentially you have these OGs that are finding like, look, like I could sell without dropping the price 50%. I can become a billionaire. I made myself a multi-billionaire by investing $1,000 or $100,000 into Bitcoin in the early days. What a heck of an investment. Now, here's the thing. You're hearing this and you're like, wow, Nico, like this is kind of depressing. You know, I kind of like those 10x days.
I want 10x
those
gains.
10x gains or those 100x gains. personally, and we've shown you guys the data, right? And we've shown you guys the map, and even with Sailor's projections, Bitcoin has more than 100x in it. It's not financial advice, but I think it's there. The only thing that's changed is the timeline, right? That's the only thing that's changed. Do I think it's going to be the best performing asset out of, any type of traditional investment that you can make? Absolutely, 100%. This is infinity divided by 21 million after all, right? And is any other asset going to give you every once in a while, to use the article's own words, a 3x in a year? I don't think so, right? That's unheard of. So yeah, man, I mean, I'm incredibly bullish. I'm feeling bullish. This is, Bitcoin is still a teenager, but it's about to hit adulthood, man. It's going to turn 18, in 1 or 2 years. So it's an adult now. And we have to come to terms with that, I guess, right?
Someone in the chat, I'd be happy with just a gain.
So yeah, man. I mean, excellent article, great summary. It's great summary. Someone in the chat saying Hopium Central. But I think it's a great explanation.
You must be new here.
I think it's a great explanation as to why, what we thought was going to happen in 2025 didn't happen in 2025. Opti.
Yeah, no. So first of all, my boy Sal, the unofficial trainer over here, he sent me this on I believe it was Friday or Saturday or something like that. And I was like, cool, I'll add it to my homework. And I read this last night, and like Nico said, it really did make me feel bullish. Though I'm not gonna lie, I felt my heart sink when if this thesis is correct, no more 10x gains. You know me, I'm a degenerate moon boy. I admit it. I was trying to hide it from you guys on the show, but I finally admit it. My dopamine's been cooked all year. I was hoping for some fun back in the market, but I have been low key coping on the show as well, where as someone that's all in, I am getting a little older. We do run a whole business on Bitcoin. The last bear market was absolutely brutal, being completely all in. And if this thesis is correct, again, it is a thesis where we're all just trying to make sense of what is going on. And to be honest, like, this makes the most sense because I have been talking about a lot of the same similar things. I just didn't have the more TradFi experience to kind of frame this in an IPO sense. And if you guys, I highly recommend you read the whole article. It'll take you about like 10, 15 minutes to read the whole article. We just kind of highlighted the main narrative so you guys could kind of get the picture of what it is. But it does make perfect sense. Like, from a more traditional view, a more traditional TradFi educated perspective to what is happening now, it makes perfect sense that what we've been seeing all year is this distribution from, the transition from the old guard to a new entrant into the market. And remember, I've been telling you guys this for months now, that what we have to kind of wrap our heads around this last couple of months, and we've all been trying to figure out what is going on. Obviously, we were using some old paradigms to kind of explain what was going on, but we all kind of forgot that there is a new entrant into the market. There is a new investor in the market, and they are kind of bringing their more traditional investment tools to Bitcoin. And with that, we have been seeing literally millions of coins hit the exchange right now. And we saw last week, 2 weeks ago, I believe, maybe 3 weeks ago, we saw that big news story come out about $3 billion dollars in Bitcoin has been transferred into like in-kind ETF redemptions. And of course, JP Morgan just came out and said, like, we will collateral your Bitcoin. So you are seeing that Wall Street is incentivizing some holders in Bitcoin, some people that have been around for a long time, to be like, hey, look, you have newfound wealth. Come use our product so that you can stop being basically poor and you can use your money. That's what this is all about. You can use your money. Anyways, the big takeaway, I think, from this is it is a perfect framework for what's going on, because we have seen a lot of new coin wake up, or rather old coin wake up. 2013, 2014, even some 2011 coins wake up, hit the exchanges. And for a while, there was the narrative that, oh, these libertarians are selling out. They believe, kind of what Peter Thiel was saying in the beginning, like they believe Bitcoin's been co-opted. They're not happy with Larry Fink getting into Bitcoin. And with the more data we've gotten, it kind of shown to be the opposite. They're actually pretty excited to be using Wall Street products so that they can actually, you know, use their wealth in a way that would literally secure their family bloodlines for a long time. Yes, it's using Wall Street vehicles, which they kind of said they were going to, you know, that this whole thing was going to destroy. But anyways, I think the big takeaway here.
That was before they were billionaires.
I know. Hey, a Billy might change my perspective a little bit too. But I think the big takeaway was the end of this. All right, so we've been talking about it, and I've been thinking of better ways to explain to you guys what I see and what I think is going on. Obviously, I've been joking for a long time. I'm a Bitcoin propagandist. I know my bias. I'm a Bitcoiner, and I think Bitcoin is winning, and it is going to win, and I want to see more people holding Bitcoin. But I really like this framework because it does a couple of things. One, it tells you what's happening. And it basically says, like, this is what's happening, this is what it means, and this is what you should be doing. And when you look at the end of that article, it did exactly that. What we're seeing is Bitcoin grow up. It's maturing. We've been talking about this all year. It's no longer just a speculative asset that all of the world's wealth is going to stay away from. It is now becoming an integral part of the traditional financial system. It's an integral part of people's portfolios, whether it's 1%, 4%, 10, 20, whatever the percentage is of your portfolio, Bitcoin has become a very clear diversifier. Like if you have wealth and you, as Larry Fink's been saying, and you're a little concerned about what your government might do or whether they're going to debase your wealth, you probably want some Bitcoin. And so this is that transition period from, you know, as they were saying, the IP whole, the original investors in the IPO, now it's maturing, now it's growing up. I don't think it's necessarily saying, you know, like this revolution is over. Obviously, that part where like we're only going to get 3x gains. It's like, oh man, dude, I really hope we got some 10x gains back in this because I don't know if my dopamines can handle that.
I'll be honest with you. I think we will. It's just what things are just going to be elongated.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right? That's kind of what I was going to say. I think we still have them, but I think
what he was trying to say is like, you know, instead of having a 10x gain in
every 4 years,
no, a 10x gain. No. I don't think he meant that. I think like
no, I meant instead of having 10x, 100x gains every 4 years, it's just going to get spread out.
I think it's going to get spread out. I mean, like, look, like if you're in your 20s and your 30s, right, and you're looking into your 50s, you know, or even if you're in your 50s, right, and you're looking into your 70s, right, like Michael Saylor's CAGR. I mean, all of strategy wouldn't work unless you're getting that 30% CAGR. It just wouldn't work out. Like all the products that he's offering, right? Like there's a reason he's promising a 10% return on some of those products, right? And he's promising that 10% return because he thinks that Bitcoin's going to perform better than that 10%, right? So he's assuming that 30% return. Now, you think like 30%, it's like, Nico, that's not that much. It's a lot if you compound, right? This is how Warren Buffett made the lion's share of his wealth, right? So again, you know, could sound like copium, whatever which way you want to phrase it. I've been at this for a long time. I've been here for a while. And I will say is like, this is what we wanted. But this is what we wanted. Like we envisioned this world. This is what we wanted. This year we saw it came to fruition. And I think that, you know, it's a very interesting pill to swallow, right? Because I don't think we anticipated what would happen when you had the institutions coming in. I don't think we anticipated what would happen when you had the governments coming in. I think as Bitcoiners, we have been spoiled tremendously, right? I mean, like if you think about it, like the returns were just like ridiculous. They were insanity. Right?
Yeah, we've just been outperforming all of Wall Street for the last 15, 16 years.
So like, and I still think, by the way, like I still think the ride up to 1 million, you know, I think it's going to happen within the next 5 to 7 years, right? So that's a 10 bagger, right? Where else are you going to get a 10 bagger? And again, not financial advice, but I mean, like you know, I don't think anything gives that type of return from a risk adjusted basis, right? You just don't see it, right? So yeah, I mean, a lot of the OGs are cashing out, they're upgrading their lifestyles, they're living that billionaire lifestyle now.
Chads.
You know, and
no. What was the takeaway of the article for everyone in the audience? Accumulate. This is not the time to take your foot off the gas. It's like, if this thesis is correct, and you know, there are some people selling out, not in like the derogatory term of selling out, but like securing some of their profits, then this is how the network does get stronger, is by every single one of us basically buying up all those coins. And we play the accumulation game. And the more people holding Bitcoin, the stronger it gets, because then as we're seeing the market cap of Bitcoin continue to go up, we're never going to get another bear whale type scenario. And that's like
it's like the China mining ban.
Exactly.
It only happened once.
And this is how the network does become more resilient, is more people holding it. Less concentration in holders probably means no really harsh bear market where we're all losing 80% of our wealth. That the less volatility does bring people in, the stability bring people in. It's bullish.
We're already down like 15%. All right.
It's over.
I do give a shout out to our friends over at HIVE Digital Technologies. HIVE just hit 23 exahashes of Bitcoin hash rate, up 283% year to date, and it's expanding to hosting 30,000 GPUs for AI workloads. Bitcoin miners are evolving into the data centers of the future. So go check out HIVE on the NASDAQ today. It's been performing extremely well. Again, not financial advice. There you got a 5-bagger, I think. 5-bagger in like a couple months, man.
If only I bought it.
So yeah, go check out HIVE. Anyways, guys, we're gonna talk about the culture segment. We're gonna vibe it out. Opti asked me, he's like, what are we gonna talk about?
Yeah, what are we gonna talk
segment?
about today?
And I'm like, we're gonna vibe it out. We're gonna vibe it out. So anyways, we're gonna be right back, and then we'll vibe it out, and then we'll wrap up the show. We'll be right back in just a bit. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at HIVEdigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitcoinBend.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Bend's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank, and you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys, tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth, and join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinbend.io, join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom. All right, we are back. Opti, let's vibe it out, bro, because I think October was a very deep month.
Disappointing month.
No, it was a very deep month for us, bro. Like, we went from, starting the month strong. First of all, the government shut down, right? Which I don't want to get into that, but basically the government shut down. Bitcoin pumped the same day, right? We ripped to 126K, but there was a voice in the back of my head because I've just been so chewed out at this point that I was like, yeah, like the previous all-time high was 124, right? So as soon as we hit 126, I'm like, all right, it's done. We're going back down. Because the all-time highs have been like,
Bro.
it's like 1K above, you know?
Yeah, it's been horrible.
It's been like, all right, 124. All right, all-time high time, 125. Back down. Consolidate for a week. 126.
Yeah, and then we're poor.
Consolidate for a month, and then it's done, right? It's been like that for a minute now, bro. It's been like that for a minute. I want to get your guys' thoughts in the chat.
Yeah, so look, I'm not gonna lie. Like last night,
someone in the chat, we will see 90K Bitcoin this week.
Like I've been feeling. Look, you guys have been seeing me on the chat. I literally, or in the show and on the chat trolling me. Nico, the week you were gone, someone was saying I'm a fake maxi and I'm flooding Bitcoin because we were being realistic about us going sideways for 10 months and just how brutal it was when we all kind of expected a parabolic run. But the end of last week, also, I just got over like I don't know, some kind of sickness here, and you know, I was feeling really bad. I just like I was feeling worn down. The price, the psychology of the market, seeing all this good news and not seeing Bitcoin pump past 1K all-time highs. I know all-time high was like a month ago, and it's just like we're spoiled. I'm spoiled and entitled, I guess, at this point. But after like literally reading that IPO article and having like a framework for what we're seeing and kind of connecting all of the data that I had from this year, covering all of the news and reading that article, I was like, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense to me. I see exactly what's going on, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. Obviously, I still believe in the Q4 action probably pumping into 2026. Yeah. I'm still convinced Q4. I mean, look, we just entered November, which is the best returns month.
I think no one has any idea.
Of course, you think I have a clue?
I think we're gonna I think all like the ideas of what Bitcoin is and stuff like that, I think it's just gonna be blown out of. Like right now, we're already in uncharted territory. I think that's just going to keep happening.
Boo! There's a bear on the chat.
No, I'm serious. Is there a bear in the chat?
Yeah, it's you.
I can't take you off screen anymore.
Yeah. Look, literally take me. I'm in control here. I can take me on screen. I can take you off screen.
I'm the captain now.
Yeah, I can take you off screen. You better be nice to me. I can take you off screen now.
I'm the captain now.
But no, I think look, we're literally entering. Actually, let me double check this so I'm not misspeaking here. But yeah, let us know in the chat. What's your vibes? We'll read a little bit of the vibe check in here as we start. Check. As we start November. So yeah, literally, guys, Nico,
Andres, the bull is over, kids.
Dude. He's been a bear all year long. He did call a couple of tops, which I'll give him that, but he's a doomer. I don't listen to doomers. I fundamentally don't listen to pessimists. This is optimist fields. All right, Nico. So we are entering on average November as the best performing month. Ever. November is the best performing month, period. So,
all right, we're 3 days into November, bro. What's going on?
Dog, lower your time preference. All right, bull is over. 200K April 2026. Bitcoin will always regain all-time high again. I personally believe
Andres timed it, bro.
He did. I'm not gonna lie. I will give him that one. He did time it. But he's also unemployed, so like, of course, he has to sell his coin, This one, Down Under Blues. I personally believe we've been in a Bitcoin consolidation market the past 10 months. We haven't seen the bull run yet. Love to see it. Sophie says we got to stop focusing on price and start focusing on stacking and self-custodying harder than Wall Street. Honestly, bars.
Wow. So
dude, I think we've trained her well. Let's see. I am preparing to hear the groans at Thanksgiving dinner. Hold on. It's not working on my end, so I might get booted again. anything before 1 million Bitcoin is just noise, just Bitcoin and HODL, obviously. So I think actually let's do a 1 in the chat. Do a 1 in the chat if you're feeling bullish. Do a 2 in the chat if you're feeling bearish, and drop a 3 if you're just kind of neutral and you're like, I really don't care. And then we'll wrap up today's show. So I just want to see a couple of those, and then so we can kind of get a vibe check here. Because I'm honestly, I think at this point I'm like almost indifferent, but I'm like bullish. I'm like indifferently bullish. Like what? How much worse could it be? We've been flat all year. As I was trolling a couple of days ago, it's like we're barely beating inflation at this point. We're underperforming the S&P 500.
Dude, listen. If gold.
Okay, hold on. We got some. We got some. 1. So bullish, bearish. Bullish.
We got a 1.5.
1. So he's kind of like bullish but bearish. Bearish, indifferent, bullish, indifferent, bullish. Nice. Okay, so I mean, it's not statistically accurate, but I think we're getting some bullishness. But yes, buy what you can when you can. This is the way. 1, 2, and 3. I'm telling you. I actually verbal whooping. I think this is exactly what's going on. Bitcoin's going to move when nobody is expecting it. And I think that is kind of going into the 4-year cycle is dead theory, which goes into, I forget who it is. Is it Chef in the chat who's been saying it? He's like 2026, Q2 2026, mark my words, it's going to rip. So we have to be bullish. 100K was a massive psychological barrier. I agree. Bullishly indifferent. I'm indifferently bullish.
I don't know, man.
I'm bipolar.
I think
1, 2, and 3.
I don't know, man. I think we're heading into uncharted territory. That's my opinion.
Wow. Dude, you're fence riding again?
I think no, dude. I just think that no one has any. Dude, everyone got it wrong.
No, I know. The question is literally, what do you think? Not what everyone else thinks.
I don't know what to think. I don't know what at this point. I have no idea what to think. I'm gonna take your words, bro. I'm taking it day by day.
Let's go.
I don't know what to think, dude. If this even,
I told that Nico before the show. I'm like, dude, listen, I'm taking it day by day. Okay.
I completely forgot what a bull market feels like. I don't even know what that feeling is like, bro. I don't even know what that feeling is like. We've been in this like, what's the thing that's between
I have a purgatory.
Between heaven and hell.
We are all wrong.
We've been in purgatory for like a year, bro. A year, dude.
It's like I have this memory of this high at one time, and it's been so long I can't remember if it was real or not.
No one remembers anything, dude. No one remembers anything. It's literally become boring. You know, it's become boring. But again, like the thesis,
it will happen when you are sleeping, and I think we're all asleep.
And I think we're all. Is this what's the Wall Street cheat sheet? Is this what This is what capitulation is like?
No. This is not capitulation, dude. This is bored to death.
Boredom.
I mean, there is no boredom. There is no boredom.
Okay. Someone, the BTC stocker, Nico, son of stats, you should have been paying attention to equities. I'm not going to sell my stack to buy equities, bro.
Remember, he's unemployed.
The BTC stocker, you guys are so funny. Bitcoin is going to have a solid 2026 and 2027 and beyond. Chill.
Let's go. Okay, so there's no boredom.
There is no boredom.
There's no boredom.
There is no boredom.
No, it's either capitulation. I'm getting 100% out of the markets. I can't afford to lose more. That's probably everyone. Anger. Who shorted the market? Why did the government allow this to happen? And then depression. My retirement money is lost. How can we pay for all this new stuff? I am an idiot.
Yeah, we might be there in 6 months.
I might be depression. I might be feeling depression.
All right.
Yeah.
If you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. This was the Monday vibe check. As you could tell,
Monday vibes.
as you can tell, we're bored and confused. If you guys enjoyed today's show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. We appreciate you joining us here on November 3rd, 2025, and we'll see you tomorrow for another episode of SB Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.